The season, Chapter 1, Anticipation. The last active element of the Confederate Army was a unit that never fought but only paraded, and had, in addition to its lack of combat time, several other peculiarities. It was composed of only 2 soldiers, one of whom was nearly 90 and the other just under 5. The muster rolls of the Confederate Army have no record of its existence, as if it were a secret force. And strangest of all, it did not march under the stars and bars, but under the flag of the United States, a circumstance neither of its members seemed to find the least bit out of the ordinary. If its table of organization was unusual, its table of equipment was even sketchier. Neither of its members was uniformed. One of them frequently paraded barefoot, and in addition to the wrong flag, its only other equipment was a drum and a sword. The drum was not even a real drum. It was one of those tin cake boxes that held Smith's Bakery's Christmas fruitcakes. After the first Christmas, this musical feed expedient was replaced with a real drum, courtesy of Santa Claus. Supplying the Confederate Army had a tendency to be both late and spotty, and sometimes come from unusual sources. On the other hand, the sword was authentic from the beginning. Not only was it authentic, it was bright. Crack regiments in this army were sometimes shoeless, but the weapons were invariably operable. Uncle Johnny, by virtue of his white hand mustaches, carried the flag and marched in front. My place was to beat the drum and march behind wearing the sword. More dragging it than wearing it actually, since it was a regulation cavalry saber, had been made for a trooper older than age 4, and the belt went completely around me twice and tended to slip down a lot. None of this bothered me. I understood even then that you fight with the weapons you are issued, and that only a poor workman blames failure on his tools. I realize now that Uncle Johnny was simply enjoying the fantasies of a little boy. It was different with me. I was in dead earnest and as serious as a train wreck. I was deadly serious because there was a gap in my education, in that I did not know that the war had been over for more than 65 years. I knew, of course, that we were not doing all that well. I had understood some of the conversations I had heard between Uncle Johnny and some of his friends, but I didn't let a lot of it concern me. Next year, when I got bigger, Uncle Johnny and I were going to help. And as soon as the first team got there, things were going to look up. I was confident of that because we had talked about it. What we had not talked about was my private worry, the thing I kept a secret, the fact that I couldn't button my pants to my shirt by myself. Little boys in the 1930s wore short pants without belts. The pants buttoned in the fly. Zippers, if invented, had not yet penetrated to South Alabama. I could handle the fly, but the pants buttoned to the shirts with 2 big buttons in the front and 2 in the back, and the ones in the back were beyond me. Hopefully, things were going to be noisy when we got to the war. There were bound to be artillery duels and cavalry charges, a lot of the noise and smoke and yelling like I saw in the movies. Surely there would be a moment or two where I could privately slip over to Uncle Johnny and get him to button the back buttons quietly where nobody could see us. It bothered me to have this flaw in my character, this inability to dress myself completely, but I did not consider it to be of critical importance. Of course, I had never heard of the management principle of informed neglect, the one that says you overlook extraneous faults while addressing the big problem, but I applied it instinctively. We had to go. The boys needed help, even if it came from people with improperly unbuttoned pants, and we would simply have to tend to these minor defects after we got there. Until then, my understanding of anticipation had consisted of looking forward to good things that were going to happen on their own. The approach of Christmas, or my birthday, or a visit to my grandmother's and a slice of her mince pie. Attendance at this war was going to involve anticipation of an entirely different breed of cat altogether. It was going to require me to do something personally rather than sit still and let it happen. It was going to have a thorn or two among the roses. I was looking forward to it all right, but somewhere around in the back there were some faintly disturbing noises. I am now a hell of a long way from 4½, and have had almost all of these early dim perceptions cleared up. I know now that anticipation, like coin, has 2 sides, and one of them can be painful. In certain circumstances, they are species of anticipation that can best be defined as dread. In certain other instances, anticipation can be pleasurable, but absolutely rigid and formal, like the entrance of the matadors into the bull ring, or the infield and batting practice taken by both teams before the ball game. or it can take the shape of the formalized ritual conducted in preparation for the spring turkey season. Lengthy and subtle anticipation, multiple anticipation, compound anticipation in all of its complexities and colors. The ritual always starts at the same time, in the second or third week of January, and in the same way. It starts with the appearance of the alder catkins.